Good afternoon and welcome once again to the Alumni Special. My name is Dilly MacFarlane. I'm your host for today's program, and I'm very pleased to welcome as my special guest today Dr. Irene McQuillan Murphy. Hello, Irene.
Hello, Dilly.
I must say that you look very fresh for a young lady that's been dancing and dining all weekend at various Jubilee
Thank you
functions.
for the young, dear.
We're going to be speaking today with Irene about her involvement with the Mount, and particularly over the last few days we've been having a marvelous celebration here to commemorate the Diamond Jubilee of Mount St. Vincent University.
I'm glad it happens only once every 60 years, because the way I'm feeling this morning, I couldn't take it until 60 years hence.
Well, I must say that your appearance decries anything of that kind, because you look very fresh, and I know that we all had a wonderful time. It really was a remarkable occasion, wasn't it?
Oh, it was a marvelous week. I've never seen so many happy faces everywhere I went, particularly on Friday night.
Yes, that
everywhere,
really was
every turn of the corridor, every room, everyone looked so happy. That was the nicest part of it.
Well, I think that we can be very proud of that success, and
I think all due to you and your committee. They were wonderful.
We did have a wonderful committee, didn't we?
I have never seen such hard-working girls in my life. They were just wonderful to work with.
Oh, that's great.
Of course, all I did was be an honorary chairman. All you do is sit there and listen to all the work that everybody else has done. It's the most unusual job for me. I'm usually with the workers.
Yes, I know you are.
But this time, I can't get credit for this wonderful show you put on.
Well, Irene, you gave us some wonderful guidance. In fact, I know that some of the comments that I've been receiving on the entire Jubilee, and particularly on the alumni activities, the President's Dinner, the gala evening on Friday, and the tea at Government House, was the attention to detail. And I think that's where we call on the expertise of the Mount girls who graduated many years ago at the times when the sisters made such a point of making sure that Mount girls knew how to do things properly. And we rely a great deal on your expertise in that area.
Every detail counted, and it paid off in the end, didn't it?
Oh, I think so, yes.
Oh, yes, it was worth it all.
To speak of your days here at the Mount, Irene, I know that you're a graduate of the Academy, and that you graduated, I believe, in 1929.
That's right.
Yes, that's...
Dates me. And then in the university, or college then it was. Yes. In those days we did both the arts and education parallel, along the same line. And so we were able to get our BA and BEd the same year, which was a great help. And
you graduated in 1932.
That's right.
With your BA and BEd. And did you go to teach right away, Irene?
Oh, dear, did I ever. I found in 1932 was the depths of the Depression. And I found myself in probably the poorest section of the city teaching, all boys. My first class was 67 boys. And I mentioned to, Sunday, one of my teacher colleagues at St. Pat's also received her honorary degree on Sunday, Connie McGraw-Baird, And as I mentioned to Connie, it's most unusual when you think of that that small elementary school on Brunswick Street during the Depression, and 4 of us on that staff, it started on that staff, have our honorary degrees today, which is most unusual.
It really is.
Morris Keating, who eventually became the superintendent of education for Halifax schools, and Dr. Florence Wall received an honorary degree from the Mount, and Connie, and myself. Now that is very unusual in one small elementary school, and in a boys' school at that. So I think teaching boys, perhaps, is the best training for life. Because this is the way it turned out.
The school of hard knocks, perhaps.
That's right.
I know that you had some special students. I know that there are a number of prominent Halifax gentlemen who are proud to say that you were their teacher in school.
Well, I find it very amusing. I go to receptions, cocktail parties, and so on, and very interesting executive-type gentlemen, gray-haired gentlemen, come up to me and they say, "Well, you must remember me. I was a bluebird."
Oh, yes, yes. And in
That's
fact,
always amusing to me.
do you know that I was a bluebird as well? And what
I'm so
we're
glad to know
referring
that,
to,
Dilly.
of course, is Dr. Murphy when she was broadcasting, I believe, was it Kindergarten of the Air? Is that the name of your...
Airway to Song.
Airway to Song. And this was something that we as school children, anyone who is watching today will remember as a school child in Halifax and Dartmouth and areas would tune into this regularly at school. It was the highlight of our week. And as children were divided into different groups in order to assess their singing ability, the bluebirds were very proud, and the yellowbirds and the redbirds. It was really...
It was a game, and I always felt that if you did just let children sing and didn't tell them they were singing the right notes, that took them much longer. Eventually they learned to sing. But if you worked on the little redbirds, they learned more quickly. And I found it amusing, you say that you used to have to go and listen to it once a week. Well, at one time, the CBC told me that the Airway to Song listening audience was second only to the national news. And but they failed to mention that it was a captive audience. You see, every child was made to listen
but we looked
by their
forward
teachers.
to it so much. We really did. It was really quite... Today, of course, students take it for granted that televisions appear in the classroom, and in fact, we're broadcasting today from a facility that broadcasts university classes
Of
to...
course. We didn't even have,
everywhere.
we're not talking television.
No,
this was
no.
just a tiny little box radio in the classroom, and the children would. But it's amazing that they learned more quickly on the radio because they knew if I come into the classroom and teach a song, they knew I'd sing it 3 or 4 times over, and they felt, well, I won't listen too closely the first time. But on the radio, they knew once it was gone, it was gone. Right. So they listened more attentively.
Oh, I always did. And I remember now, did you use the High Road to Song?
Oh, yes,
and that is one of my dearest. I have several books in our family, and indeed of my brothers and sisters. We often get this out and recall with a lot of pleasure.
Isn't that interesting? Dr. Roy Fenwick would love that. It was his series.
Really?
He edited the series. Dr. Roy Fenwick was the supervisor of music in the province of Ontario, and he used to teach summer school classes to teachers like myself, and that's where I studied. So I was very happy to use his book because I was
in
brought
fact,
up
have
in
a
it.
copy in my office that a friend of mine from school days that I met here at the Mount, we were reminiscing one day, and I brought this to show her, and we sat at lunchtime, over lunch, and remembered every note of every song, and of course the written music was there as well.
Isn't that marvelous?
These,
I think that's wonderful. That's more than I have. I don't have one copy of High Road of Song.
I will be very happy to give you mine, and that's a promise, and all you folks that are watching today can bear me out on it. But Irene, getting back to the Diamond Jubilee, we were very busy girls, weren't we, all of us? We started with the celebrations on Wednesday evening with a President's Dinner, whereby all the presidents, class presidents, student union presidents, former presidents of the university, former presidents of the Alumni Association, of the Staff Association, and faculty, every president that we could dredge up, and we were very, very pleased.
That's when I had to give my short address off at the end of the evening. That's the first thing I said. I had never spoken to so many presidents in my life, you know.
It was very, we had
but it was,
140.
I think, was one of the highlights of the week. I loved it. It was such fun, and all these people that I hadn't seen for years and years that were here, and it was such a happy reunion.
Oh, indeed.
And of course, then still don't know why they went backwards, but they started with the 80s and then the 70s.
Well, we were
and so on.
saving the best till last, of
Oh,
course.
that's what you
And
keep telling me, but it wasn't very happy waiting for my turn. But when I went to the 20s, and of course all I had to do was say the title, The Roaring Twenties at the Mount, and it took the house down because there was nothing roaring at the Mount in the 20s or any other time in those days.
we had some very interesting speakers that evening, didn't we? Agnes O'Donnell Kelly spoke to us.
She was excellent,
wasn't
yes.
she?
She was
spoke to us about her experience here in the 30s. And then Sister Margaret Young.
Oh, she's a beautiful speaker.
Yes, she is. And she spoke
Such a
of the
talented
40s.
person.
And Pat Whitman, who was a little girl at the Academy in the 50s, spoke to us about what it was like. And we have photographs of Pat in different concerts and so on in her little uniform with a little, she was such a tiny little thing. And the 60s, Marilyn Hutchings, who was the vice president of our Halifax chapter, spoke about her recollections of those very tumultuous times as times of student unrest and how that reflected on her experience here at the Mount. And then, of course, our own Debbie Potty Matheson, the recent past president, spoke on the 70s and what her recollections were. And do you recall what she said about her experience at the Mount? She said something, this was the tone of the evening as far as set the tone as far as I was concerned, because she was one of the very first speakers. She said, that was a long time ago, she said, but I love the Mount, and I'm here today because I love the Mount. And she said, in 25 years, I'll still be here. And I think there was that, don't you agree,
All
Irene?
through it. All through the spirit that evening was just, everyone was telling how their experience of how much they loved the Mount and why they loved it.
And I think that
what all every little detail, as you said, that the sisters insisted upon. We laughed and
Well, this carried through to the gala, in fact.
Oh, yes.
And
the whole
Friday
thing.
evening is going to be a very special night in my memory for a long time. And
Yes,
for a lot of people.
and of course when you're over 70 and you end up in the pub doing the Charleston at 10 minutes to 1 in the morning, and it's a night to remember.
And very well too, Irene, I must add. You had more energy than I did at that point in time. But
Fortunately, there weren't too many people around. I should have died of embarrassment.
Well, I don't think you need to take up Ginger Rogers. I don't think could have done as well. It was really quite an enjoyable
Well, that's
evening.
because I had an extraordinary partner. He's a young professor on the staff here, and he is, I think they talk about somebody being double-jointed. I think he's triple-jointed.
Well, then we had our wonderful tea at Government House on Saturday afternoon, honoring our medals recipients. And in fact, I am not going to talk about that right now because we're going to invite some medals recipients to be interviewed for the alumni special in the coming weeks. And the crowning ceremony, a convocation was, as far as I'm concerned, was the crowning glory of the entire week of activity. Sunday's convocation.
Wasn't that marvelous with all of those, the list of new scholarships?
Oh, yes.
That was the most thrilling thing. When
22
new scholarships.
Jubilee scholarships.
I thought that was magnificent. And there were so many of them in memory of our alumni.
Yes.
I enjoyed that very, very much. And of course, I enjoyed the people who got their degrees.
And you, as an honorary degree recipient, sitting in company with Dr. Irene Farmer, with Marie Hamilton.
Yes, and above all, my darling Monique Beja.
Oh, yes.
You know, the day I received my honorary degree, there are two of us received.
That's right.
And Monique was the other one, and she is a delightful person.
Well, Irene, you're quite a delight yourself. And before I close the show, I want to take a special opportunity to thank you so much for your personal encouragement to me, and for the wonderful guidance that you've given our Jubilee Committee. It was quite a swell party.
It was.
It was.
And I hope there'll be more of them.
There will indeed. And I want you to remind our viewing audience now that we'd be most grateful to receive program suggestions from you. So please write to me, Dilly MacFarlane, at Mount St. Vincent University Alumni Office. And I welcome you to join me again next week on the Alumni Special.